Hello everyone, welcome back to The Scary Teller. If you are watching my video, close your eyes. If you like the video, then be sure to like and subscribe. Let's get started. The whispering rainforest. In the heart of an ancient, uncharted rainforest, the rain fell relentlessly, drumming against the thick canopy above. The jungle was alive with sounds, chirping insects, the occasional call of distant animals, and the rhythmic pitter-patter of rain cascading through the leaves. Beneath this natural symphony stood Maya, her drenched hair clinging to her face as she wrapped her arms around herself for warmth. Maya had always been drawn to the mysteries of the jungle. Raised in a nearby village, she'd grown up hearing tales of the Rainforest of Whispers, a place said to be alive, with secrets that only the rain could reveal. But she had never imagined finding herself stranded here, miles away from the safety of her village. It had started as a simple trek, an impulsive decision to explore the jungle during the first rain of the monsoon season. The elders had warned her about the dangers, the deceptive paths, the quicksand, and the ancient spirits said to roam under the rain. But Maya had brushed them off. She was young, curious, and confident. That confidence now felt like a distant memory as she stood in the pouring rain, the light of her lantern flickering against the encroaching darkness. Maya's feet squelched in the mud as she tried to find shelter. The jungle seemed endless, the trees towering like silent sentinels. Every step she took seemed to echo, the sound swallowed by the dense vegetation. She stumbled upon a small clearing, where the rain fell freely, drenching her completely, and that's when she noticed it. A faint light glowing through the rain, deep in the jungle. Her heart leapt. Perhaps it was a fellow traveler, or a camp. She hesitated for a moment, her instincts warning her of the unknown, but the cold rain and the growing fear of spending the night alone propelled her forward. As she approached the source of the light, she realized it was coming from a small wooden cabin nestled between two massive trees. The cabin looked old, its structure weathered by time and the jungle's relentless embrace. The windows glowed with a warm amber light, and smoke curled lazily from a stone chimney. Maya knocked on the door hesitantly, the sound barely audible over the rain. For a moment, there was silence. Then, the door creaked open, revealing an elderly woman. Her face was wrinkled but kind, her eyes sharp and curious. "Come in, child," the woman said in a soft, melodic voice. "You'll catch your death out there." Maya stepped inside, shivering as the warmth of the cabin enveloped her. The interior was cozy, filled with mismatched furniture and the aroma of herbs and spices. A fire crackled in the hearth, and a pot of something fragrant simmered on the stove. "Thank you," Maya said, her voice trembling. "I got lost in the rain." The woman nodded knowingly. "The rainforest has a way of leading people astray. Sit by the fire and warm yourself." Maya sank into a worn armchair, her eyes drawn to the walls. They were covered in strange symbols and carvings, each telling a story she couldn't quite decipher. "Are you alone out here?" Maya asked, her curiosity piqued. The woman smiled faintly. "Not entirely. The jungle keeps me company. It whispers its secrets if you know how to listen." Maya felt a chill that had nothing to do with the rain. She glanced at the symbols again, their patterns seeming to shift and move in the firelight. The hours passed as the woman shared stories of the rainforest, tales of ancient spirits, lost travelers, and treasures guarded by curses. Maya listened intently, the rain outside a constant backdrop. But as the night deepened, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching her. "Rest, child," the woman said eventually, pointing to a small cot in the corner. "You'll need your strength to find your way back tomorrow." Maya lay down, exhaustion pulling her into a restless sleep, but her dreams were vivid and unsettling. She saw the jungle come alive, the trees bending and shifting as shadowy figures moved between them. She heard whispers in a language she didn't understand, and a face, pale and unearthly, emerged from the darkness, watching her with hollow eyes. She woke with a start, the cabin eerily silent. The fire had burned low, casting long, flickering shadows. The woman was gone. Maya sat up, her heart pounding. The whispers from her dreams seemed to linger in the air. She stepped outside, the rain now a soft drizzle. The jungle looked different, almost welcoming. The light of dawn filtered through the trees, painting the world in hues of green and gold. But when she turned back to thank the woman, the cabin was gone. In its place was an overgrown clearing, the ground littered with moss-covered stones. Maya's journey back to the village was swift, as if the jungle itself was guiding her. When she arrived, the elders listened in silence as she recounted her night. They exchanged glances, their expressions a mix of fear and reverence. "You were chosen," one of them said. "The Rainforest of Whispers doesn't reveal itself to just anyone. Whatever you saw, whatever you heard, hold it close. It's a gift and a warning." From that day on, Maya never ventured into the jungle again. But on rainy nights, she would sit by her window, listening to the whispers carried by the wind, and wonder what secrets the rainforest still held. The whispers never truly left Maya's life. Even as she returned to her daily routine in the village, the faint murmur of unseen voices seemed to follow her. At first, she thought it was her imagination, but over time, she began noticing peculiar things. Shadows flickering just at the edge of her vision, the rustling of leaves when there was no wind, and animals behaving oddly in her presence. The villagers, too, noticed the change. Birds that usually fled at the sight of humans would perch near Maya, watching her with unblinking eyes. Stray dogs would gather outside her home at night, howling softly at the moon. The elders grew wary, whispering amongst themselves that the jungle had mocked her. One evening, as the monsoon rains returned, Maya decided to confront the whispers. If the jungle had truly chosen her, she needed to understand why. Armed with nothing but a lantern and a shawl, she ventured out of the village and into the rainforest once again. The path was familiar, yet different. The rain made the forest shimmer, droplets clinging to leaves like tiny crystals. The whispers grew louder with every step, forming an almost melodic rhythm. Maya followed them, her fear replaced by an inexplicable sense of purpose. Hours passed before she reached the clearing where the cabin had once stood. This time, however, the clearing was not empty. In the center stood a large ancient tree with a hollowed trunk, its gnarled roots twisted like the veins of the earth, and its bark was etched with the same symbols Maya had seen in the cabin. She stepped closer, drawn to the hollow. As she peered inside, she saw something glinting in the darkness, a small, intricately carved pendant, shaped like a teardrop. It seemed to pulse faintly, as though alive. Maya reached out and touched it. The moment her fingers brushed against the pendant, a wave of visions engulfed her. She saw the rainforest as it had been centuries ago, untouched by humans. She saw a tribe living in harmony with the jungle, their lives intertwined with its secrets. They were the keepers of the forest, protectors of its balance. But she also saw their downfall, a group of outsiders who sought to exploit the rainforest's resources, bringing destruction and chaos. The tribe had fought to protect their home, but they were outnumbered. In their final moments, they performed a sacred ritual, binding the essence of the jungle into the pendant, vowing to choose a new guardian when the time was right. The visions faded, and Maya found herself on her knees, the pendant clutched tightly in her hand. The whispers were no longer incomprehensible. They spoke to her clearly now, guiding her, urging her to fulfill her role as the rainforest's protector. Maya returned to the village, but she was no longer the same. The jungle had imprinted itself on her soul, and she began to wield its power in subtle, miraculous ways. Crops in the village flourished under her care, and animals that had once been a threat stayed away. The villagers, initially cautious, began to revere her, seeing her as a bridge between them and the mysterious rainforest. But with great power came responsibility. The pendant was both a gift and a burden. Maya could feel the jungle's pain when outsiders came to cut down its trees or pollute its rivers. The whispers would turn into cries, urging her to act. She started leading efforts to protect the forest, rallying the villagers to stand against those who sought to harm it. One night, during a particularly fierce storm, a group of loggers arrived with heavy machinery, determined to clear a large portion of the rainforest. Maya stood at the edge of the village, the pendant glowing faintly around her neck. She knew this was the moment the jungle had prepared her for. As the loggers began their work, the rainforest responded. Trees swayed violently in the wind, their branches lashing out like living creatures. Vines crept along the ground, entangling the machinery and pulling it into the earth. Animals emerged from the shadows, their eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. Maya stood in the heart of the chaos, her voice ringing out like a thunderclap. "Leave this place," she commanded, her words carrying the weight of the jungle itself. The loggers, terrified, fled into the night, leaving their equipment behind. From that day forward, no one dared to threaten the rainforest again. Maya's legend spread far beyond her village, and people began to treat the jungle with the respect it deserved. Years later, Maya grew old, her hair streaked with silver, her body slower, but her spirit as resolute as ever. The rainforest, however, seemed untouched by time. The trees remained tall and ancient, the whispers just as strong as the day she first heard them. Maya had fulfilled her role as the guardian, ensuring the balance between her village and the jungle. But she knew her time was nearing its end. The pendant, once a vibrant force of energy, began to dim, its glow fading with each passing day. The jungle was calling for a new protector, and Maya could feel the weight of its decision approaching. One quiet evening, during the first rain of the season, Maya sat by the edge of the forest, gazing at the towering trees. She whispered a quiet prayer to the spirits of the rainforest, thanking them for their trust and promising to guide the next guardian, even from the afterlife. As the rain fell, the jungle seemed to hum in response. The animals gathered silently, as if paying their respects. A gentle breeze carried the scent of earth and rain, wrapping around Maya like a farewell embrace. She smiled, clutching the pendant one last time before placing it at the base of the ancient tree where she had first found it. The moment the pendant touched the roots, the forest seemed to come alive. The ground trembled slightly, and the symbols on the tree glowed faintly, pulsating with a soft golden light. The whispers grew louder, not as a warning, but as a song, a celebration of the life Maya had dedicated to the jungle. The villagers found her the next morning, sitting peacefully beneath the ancient tree, her eyes closed and a serene smile on her face. She had passed quietly, becoming one with the rainforest she had loved and protected. The pendant, however, was gone, absorbed back into the tree. For days, the jungle remained eerily still, as if mourning the loss of its guardian. But soon, life resumed, and the whispers began again, this time softer, gentler, waiting for the right soul to answer their call. Years turned into decades, and Maya's story became legend. The villagers continued to protect the jungle, honoring her memory with an annual festival during the first rains of the season. Deep in the rainforest, the ancient tree stood tall, its symbols still faintly glowing, holding the promise of a new guardian when the jungle needed one again. And somewhere in the shadows of the forest, the whispers lingered, a reminder of the bond between the living and the land, and the power of a single soul to protect the beauty of nature. Generations passed, and the legend of Maya became part of the village's identity. Her story was told to children as they sat around the fire on rainy nights, her bravery immortalized in songs and carvings. But while the village prospered, the outside world grew hungrier for resources. The whispers of the rainforest began to stir again, sensing an encroaching threat far greater than before. One fateful season, strangers arrived at the village, engineers, surveyors, and soldiers armed with maps and machines. They claimed to bring progress, promising roads and development that would connect the village to the cities beyond the jungle. But the villagers knew better. The jungle was sacred, and Maya's warning still echoed in their hearts. They refused to allow the outsiders into the forest, but the strangers were relentless, determined to push forward despite the protests. The jungle responded. The whispers turned into cries that reached the hearts of the villagers, urging them to act. The forest sent signs, unexplained storms, animals blocking paths, and machinery breaking down mysteriously. Yet, the outsiders pressed on, growing more determined to tame the rainforest. Amidst the growing tension, a young girl named Asha, barely 16, began to hear the whispers more clearly than anyone else. She was quiet and thoughtful, often wandering into the edges of the forest where the villagers rarely went. It was said she resembled Maya in her youth, with a curious spark in her eyes and an unshakable bond with nature. One night, as the rain poured heavily, Asha dreamed of the ancient tree. In her vision, the tree glowed with an intense golden light, and the pendant reappeared, resting in its hollow. She saw Maya standing beside the tree, her figure shimmering like mist, beckoning Asha to step forward. When Asha woke, the whispers were louder than ever, guiding her toward the forest. Without hesitation, Asha followed the call. The jungle welcomed her, the rain parting gently as she walked. She reached the ancient tree just as dawn broke, its roots glowing faintly, as if recognizing her presence. Within the hollow, the pendant shimmered softly, as though it had been waiting for her all along. As Asha touched the pendant, she was overcome by the same wave of visions Maya had experienced years ago. She saw the jungle's history, the balance it maintained, and the looming threat posed by the outsiders. But she also saw Maya, her spirit standing tall and proud, passing on the mantle of guardian to her. When the vision faded, Asha opened her eyes, her heart filled with newfound strength and purpose. The whispers were no longer distant. They were part of her now, a constant guide. She wore the pendant around her neck, feeling its warmth spread through her, connecting her to every tree, every animal, and every drop of rain in the rainforest. Asha returned to the village, her presence commanding attention. She spoke with a voice beyond her years, urging the villagers to unite and protect the jungle as their ancestors had done. With her guidance, the villagers began to prepare for the confrontation ahead, using their deep knowledge of the forest to outsmart the outsiders. When the engineers and soldiers returned with their machines, they found the jungle itself rising against them. Trees fell to block their paths, rivers overflowed, and animals seemed to appear out of nowhere, disrupting their work. Asha stood at the forefront, her pendant glowing as she chanted prayers taught to her by the whispers. The strangers, frightened and overwhelmed, eventually abandoned their plans, leaving the rainforest untouched. The village celebrated their victory, but Asha knew the fight was far from over. The world outside was ever changing, its hunger for resources unending. Yet, she also knew the rainforest was alive, resilient and full of ancient power. With the pendant around her neck and the whispers as her guide, Asha vowed to protect the jungle just as Maya had, ensuring its survival for generations to come. And so the cycle continued. The rainforest stood as a living testament to the bond between humanity and nature, safeguarded by those brave enough to listen to its whispers. Asha, like Maya before her, became a legend, her name etched into the stories of the village, her spirit forever intertwined with the soul of the jungle. As years passed, Asha's influence grew far beyond the village. Word of her connection to the jungle and her ability to protect it spread to neighboring communities. She became a symbol of resilience and harmony with nature, drawing attention not just from those who revered the forest, but also from those who sought to exploit it. The whispers guided her every step, teaching her secrets of the jungle that no human had ever known. She learned to heal the sick with rare herbs, to summon rain during droughts, and to communicate with the animals that shared the forest. The villagers came to her not only for guidance, but also for protection, trusting her as the jungle's chosen guardian. But with recognition came new challenges. Corporations, larger and more powerful than the previous outsiders, turned their eyes toward the rainforest. They came armed with more than machines. They brought lawyers, politicians, and money, offering the villagers wealth in exchange for the land. They claimed their projects would bring schools, hospitals, and infrastructure. While some villagers were tempted, Asha stood firm, reminding them of their sacred duty to protect the jungle and the balance it maintained. When persuasion failed, the corporations turned to force. They began clearing areas of the rainforest far from the village, cutting down ancient trees and polluting rivers. The whispers grew louder, their pain echoing in Asha's heart. She knew this was a threat unlike any she or Maya had faced before, and she couldn't fight it alone. One stormy night, Asha ventured deep into the jungle, farther than anyone had ever dared to go. The whispers guided her to a hidden grove where the trees seemed to glow with their own light, their branches intertwined like a protective canopy. In the center of the grove stood another ancient tree, larger than any she had seen before. Its bark was covered in symbols even older than those on the pendant. As Asha approached, the ground beneath her feet trembled, and the whispers grew into a chorus. She knelt before the tree, placing her hands on its trunk. The pendant around her neck pulsed with light, and she felt the jungle's immense power surge through her. The whispers told her of an ancient ritual, one that would awaken the full strength of the rainforest to defend itself. The ritual, however, came with a cost. Asha would have to bind her soul to the jungle completely, becoming a part of it forever. She would no longer be able to live as a normal human, but her spirit would become one with the rainforest, ensuring its protection for eternity. Asha didn't hesitate. She knew this was her destiny, just as it had been Maya's before her. She began the ritual, chanting the words the whispers had taught her. The pendant glowed brighter and brighter, illuminating the grove with a golden light. The jungle around her seemed to come alive. Trees swayed, animals gathered, and the rain fell harder, as if the forest itself was answering her call. As the ritual reached its climax, Asha felt her body dissolving into the light, her essence merging with the jungle. The whispers surrounded her, comforting and welcoming her into their eternal embrace. Her last thought was of her village, of the people she loved, and of the rainforest she had given everything to protect. When the villagers found the grove the next morning, they saw no trace of Asha, only the glowing symbols on the ancient tree and the pendant now embedded in its trunk. They understood what had happened, and wept both for their loss and for the gift she had given them. From that day on, the jungle became impenetrable to outsiders. Trees grew thicker and taller, rivers changed their courses, and animals became fiercely protective of their home. The corporations abandoned their efforts, deeming the rainforest too dangerous to conquer. The villagers continued to honor Asha, just as they had honored Maya. They built shrines at the edges of the forest and told her story to every new generation. The whispers remained, softer now, but always present, a reminder that the jungle was alive, vigilant, and forever guarded by the spirits of those who had sacrificed themselves for its survival. And so, the rainforest endured, its secrets safe, its balance preserved, and its guardians, Asha and Maya, watching over it from the shadows of its eternal embrace. As the decades rolled on, Asha's story became more than a tale of sacrifice. It became the heart of the village's culture and identity. Generations of children grew up under the protective canopy of the rainforest, learning to coexist with its wild, untamed beauty. The villagers believed they were stewards of something far greater than themselves, and they carried this duty with pride. But the outside world was changing rapidly. Cities expanded, populations grew, and technology advanced. The rainforest, though resilient, faced new threats. Satellites mapped its every inch, drones surveyed its resources, and global corporations began plotting ways to exploit it once more. The whispers, now faint and distant, seemed to stir uneasily, sensing an encroaching danger unlike any before. One fateful year, a team of scientists arrived, not with bulldozers or chainsaws, but with promises of sustainable development. They claimed they wanted to study the rainforest to better understand its ecosystem and preserve it. They approached the villagers with respect, asking for permission to enter the sacred forest. While some villagers were skeptical, others believed these scientists might help protect their home from more destructive forces. The villagers eventually agreed to let the scientists explore the outskirts of the forest, but they warned them never to venture too deep. The whispers were still faintly audible to the elders, who felt the forest's unease. Yet the scientists were persistent, pushing boundaries in their pursuit of knowledge. One day, a young researcher named Dr. Elena, a botanist with a deep love for nature, found herself drawn to the ancient tree where Asha had become one with the jungle. She had heard the villagers' legends, but dismissed them as folklore. Yet, as she stood before the towering tree, she felt something she couldn't explain. A presence, an energy that seemed alive. Dr. Elena reached out to touch the symbols etched into the bark, and as her fingers grazed the surface, the whispers returned. At first, they were soft, indistinct murmurs, but soon they grew louder, forming words in a language she couldn't understand. The pendant embedded in the tree glowed faintly, and for a brief moment she saw visions, flashes of Maya, Asha, and the rainforest's endless struggle for survival. Terrified and awestruck, Elena stumbled back. She returned to the village, desperate for answers. The elders, who had seen the glow from afar, gathered around her, their faces grave. They told her the true story of Maya, Asha, and the jungle's guardianship. The Whispers had chosen her, they said, just as they had chosen Asha and Maya before her. The forest had marked her as its next protector. Elena was conflicted. She had come to the rainforest as a scientist, seeking knowledge, not to become part of its myths. But as the days passed, the Whispers began to follow her, growing louder, more insistent. She couldn't ignore them, nor could she deny the connection she felt to the jungle. Slowly, she realized that the science she loved and the spiritual bond of the rainforest were not at odds. They were two sides of the same coin. When a multinational corporation announced plans to begin mining operations near the rainforest's borders, Elena knew she had to act. She rallied the villagers, using both her scientific expertise and the Whisper's guidance to build a case against the destruction. With evidence of the rainforest's unparalleled biodiversity and its critical role in regulating the planet's climate, she gained the support of environmental organizations and even government officials. The battle was long and arduous, fought in courtrooms and protest sites, but Elena's resolve never wavered. The Whispers strengthened her, filling her with the same courage that had guided Maya and Asha. In the end, the corporation was forced to abandon its plans, and the rainforest was declared a protected sanctuary, its borders safeguarded by law. Though the world celebrated this victory, Elena knew her journey was just beginning. She chose to remain in the village, dedicating her life to the rainforest and its people. She worked to combine traditional knowledge with modern science, creating sustainable practices that allowed the villagers to thrive without harming the forest. The Whispers, once faint and uncertain, now spoke to her with clarity and trust. Elena, like the guardians before her, became part of the jungle's story, a bridge between the past and the future, the human and the wild. And so, the cycle continued. The rainforest stood resilient, its spirit eternal, its guardians chosen by destiny. As long as the Whispers called, and someone answered, the balance would endure, and the jungle's heart would keep beating, strong and free. Years turned into centuries, and the rainforest's guardianship evolved with time. Elena's work became the foundation of a deeper harmony between the villagers, the forest, and the outside world. Her efforts led to the establishment of a global alliance to protect the rainforest, drawing scientists, activists, and indigenous leaders from across the globe. But as the world changed, so too did the threats. Climate change brought unpredictable storms and rising temperatures, threatening the delicate balance of the ecosystem. Illegal logging and poaching surged in secret, driven by black markets that cared little for the laws safeguarding the forest. The Whispers grew restless once again, searching for new ways to protect their home. The legends of Maya, Asha, and Elena became stories told, not just in the village, but across the world. The rainforest, once a hidden mystery, was now seen as a sacred treasure. Pilgrims, researchers, and wanderers from distant lands came to visit, seeking the wisdom of the forest and the Whispers they had heard about in myths. Yet, the jungle remained selective, revealing itself only to those who truly listened. One such visitor was a young boy named Kian, born far from the rainforest in a bustling city. Kian had always felt out of place in the concrete jungle of skyscrapers and endless noise. He dreamed of green landscapes, of trees that whispered secrets, and of rain that carried stories. His parents, inspired by tales of the rainforest's guardians, brought him to the village, hoping he might find solace there. From the moment Kian set foot in the rainforest, the whispers stirred. They reached out to him, soft and hesitant at first, as if testing his heart. Unlike other visitors, Kian did not seek to capture the jungle in photographs or studies. He simply wandered, listening and feeling, letting the forest speak to him in its ancient language. One stormy night, Kian awoke to a vivid dream of the ancient tree. He saw Maya, Asha, and Elena, their figures shimmering like spirits in the rain. They stood together, their gazes fixed on him, as if passing on a silent message. In the dream, the pendant glowed brighter than ever before, and Kian felt a deep pull toward it. The next morning, Kian followed the whispers to the ancient tree. The grove, untouched by time, radiated a sense of awe and reverence. As he approached the tree, the pendant began to glow faintly, acknowledging his presence. When he reached out to touch it, the whispers surged into a chorus, surrounding him with visions of the past and glimpses of the future. Kian saw not only the guardians who came before him, but also the challenges that lay ahead. He saw a world struggling to heal, torn between its desire for progress and its need for preservation. He saw the rainforest standing strong, but also fragile, its survival dependent on those willing to fight for it. When the visions faded, Kian found himself clutching the pendant, its warmth spreading through him like a heartbeat. The jungle had chosen him, a boy from a distant city, to carry forward the legacy of its guardians. Under the guidance of the villagers and the whispers, Kian began his training. Though young, he possessed a wisdom beyond his years, a natural connection to the forest that grew stronger each day. He learned to navigate the jungle, to listen to its warnings, and to use the pendant's power to protect its secrets. Kian's arrival marked the beginning of a new era for the rainforest. With technology advancing faster than ever, he embraced both ancient wisdom and modern innovation, creating ways to defend the jungle against threats, old and new. He worked to unite people across the world, spreading the message that the rainforest was not just a resource, but a living, breathing entity, deserving of respect and care. As Kian grew, so did his bond with the forest. The whispers became a part of him, guiding his every step. And though the challenges he faced were great, he carried with him the strength of Maya, Asha, Eleanor, and all the guardians who had come before him. The rainforest thrived, its heart beating strong, its soul protected by the unbroken chain of guardians. And as the rain fell softly over the ancient tree, the whispers continued their eternal song, a promise that the jungle's spirit would endure, forever watched over by those who loved it most. Kian's journey as the rainforest's guardian wasn't just about protecting the jungle. It was about building a deeper understanding between the natural world and humanity. As he matured, his efforts brought together people from all walks of life. Scientists, conservationists, and indigenous leaders worked alongside him to create a global network dedicated to preserving not only the rainforest, but the planet as a whole. The pendant became a symbol of hope and unity. With its mysterious power, Kian discovered new abilities that allowed him to bridge gaps between worlds. He could summon the rain to heal parched lands, guide lost travelers back to safety, and even calm the restless storms that threatened the jungle. But Kian understood the pendant was not a tool of domination. It was a gift of harmony, meant to restore balance where it had been lost. Years passed, and Kian grew into a wise and respected figure. His work led to the creation of advanced monitoring systems to detect illegal activity in the rainforest. Villages across the region were equipped with solar energy, clean water systems, and schools, all designed to work in harmony with the forest. Under his guidance, the villages became teachers and protectors, sharing their knowledge with the world while remaining deeply connected to their roots. Yet even as progress flourished, a shadow loomed on the horizon. A group of powerful industrialists, undeterred by the forest's legends, saw its resources as the key to their ambitions. Armed with cutting-edge technology and vast wealth, they devised plans to bypass the natural defenses that had kept the rainforest safe for centuries. They hired experts to disable the monitoring systems, sent drones to map the uncharted regions, and prepared to launch a full-scale assault on the jungle's treasures. The whispers grew louder, their urgency filling Kian's dreams. The ancient tree glowed brighter, warning him of the impending danger. Kian knew this threat was unlike any before. It wasn't just a physical attack, it was an assault on the very spirit of the rainforest. If the balance was broken, the jungle's heart might never recover. Kian gathered his allies, calling upon every resource and connection he had forged over the years. Scientists brought cutting-edge environmental technology, activists rallied global support, and indigenous leaders invoked ancient rituals to strengthen the jungle's spiritual defenses. The villagers, now skilled protectors of the forest, stood ready to defend their home. As the industrialists launched their invasion, the rainforest responded with unparalleled force. Trees shifted to block paths, rivers swelled to wash away machines, and animals worked together to drive intruders out. Kian, guided by the pendant and the whispers, led the charge, using his unique bond with the jungle to outmaneuver the invaders. The battle raged for days, but the industrialists underestimated the power of the rainforest and the unity of those who protected it. In the end, their technology failed against the ancient, untamable spirit of the jungle. Defeated and humiliated, they abandoned their plans, leaving the forest untouched. The victory was celebrated around the world, but Kian knew the fight wasn't over. He understood that true protection came not just from battles, but from changing the way people viewed nature. He continued his work, using his story and the pendant's legacy to inspire generations to cherish and protect the planet. As Kian grew older, he began to feel the whispers changing. They became softer, gentler, as if preparing for a transition. One day, as he stood before the ancient tree, the pendant began to glow once more. The whispers told him it was time to pass on his role. Just as Asha and Elena had done before him, Kian chose a young girl from the village, a child who had shown extraordinary empathy for the forest and its creatures. He guided her to the ancient tree, where the whispers welcomed her with the same warmth they had once shown him. Placing the pendant around her neck, Kian felt a sense of peace, knowing the rainforest was in safe hands. As the rain fell gently over the grove, Kian took one last look at the tree, its glowing symbols a reminder of the eternal bond between humanity and nature. He walked away, his heart full, ready to begin the next chapter of his life, knowing the cycle of guardianship would continue. The rainforest endured, its spirit thriving, its whispers carrying the stories of its guardians across time. And as the rain mingled with the wind, it seemed to sing a song of hope, a promise that as long as there were those who listened, the jungle's heart would never stop beating. As Kian grew older, He began to feel the whispers changing. They became softer, gentler, as if preparing for a transition. One day, as he stood before the ancient tree, the pendant began to glow once more. The whispers told him it was time to pass on his role, just as Asha and Elena had done before him. Kian chose a young girl from the village, a child who had shown extraordinary empathy for the forest and its creatures. He guided her to the ancient tree where the whispers welcomed her with the same warmth they had once shown him. Placing the pendant around her neck, Kian felt a sense of peace, knowing the rainforest was in safe hands. As the rain fell gently over the grove, Kian took one last look at the tree, its glowing symbols a reminder of the eternal bond between humanity and nature. He walked away, his heart full, ready to begin the next chapter of his life, knowing the cycle of guardianship would continue. The rainforest endured, its spirit thriving, its whispers carrying the stories of its guardians across time. And as the rain mingled with the wind, it seemed to sing a song of hope, a promise that as long as there were those who listened, the jungle's heart would never stop beating.